you think cowboys fought with revolvers. Not even close. The deadliest weapons of the Old West were the ones nobody ever saw. Hidden blades, pocket guns, and improvised tools tucked out of sight until the moment they struck. One outlaw ended a gunfight with a weapon so small it fit inside his boot. Another carried something far more dangerous than a six-shooter inside his coat. Today, we're revealing 12 secret weapons cowboys actually carried and why these concealed tools changed fights faster than any revolver on the frontier. The boot knife. A poker game turns ugly in a cramped saloon. One cowboy slowly raises his hands in feigned surrender, knowing the other's revolver has him dead to rights. But hidden in his high leather boot, a sliver of cold steel waits. With a sudden flick of his wrist, a blade flashes out from under the table. The armed outlaw staggers back, eyes wide with shock as a boot knife finds its mark. In an instant, the unarmed cowboy stands victorious, his hidden dagger the ace up his sleeve, or rather, in his boot. Boot knives were the secret companions of many Westerners. These small daggers could be tucked into a boot top or strapped to an ankle, completely invisible until the moment of desperate need. Some were ordinary, fixed blade knives. Others took on exotic forms like the push dagger, a T-handle blade designed to sit in a clenched fist for a punching stab. Gamblers and gunslingers loved such concealable knives, as they were easy to hide and quick to deploy in close quarters. A sudden gleam of steel from a boot knife had a profound psychological effect. The opponent, who thought you were disarmed, would realize too late that you had another way to kill. In a world where a misfire or empty cylinder could spell death, the boot knife offered one last, life-saving surprise. And if you think a hidden 6-inch blade is vicious, wait until you see what a fistful of iron could do. Brass knuckles. Two men face off in a dusty street at dusk, but this isn't a classic quick-draw duel. One throws a punch that lands with an unusual crunch. The other man collapses, nose shattered, as metal glints on the attacker's hand. He wasn't just punching, he was hitting with brass knuckles. In the Old West saloons and alleys, a simple fistfight could turn deadly when a brawler slipped on these heavy knuckle dusters. Brass knuckles, often brass, iron, or lead, were the hidden weapon for anyone wanting a knockout punch without a gunshot. Easy to conceal and slip on in a second, they focused all force into a few brutal points, smashing bone and tearing flesh. Lawmen, outlaws, and even soldiers carried them. During the Civil War, fighters molded lead knuckles from melted bullets for close-quarters combat. The threat of a fist wrapped in brass could calm an unruly drunk without firing a shot. And if threats failed, one sharp uppercut ended trouble fast. To onlookers, it looked like supernatural strength. The victim often never knew what hit him. But sometimes even a silent knockout wasn't enough. Sometimes a lawman needed a weapon that struck faster, swinging like a snake. The blackjack, aka the sap. Midnight and a town sheriff shadows a wanted man down a moonlit alley. Before the outlaw reaches his pistol, thud, he collapses. Sheriff stands over him with a small leather club. A blackjack or sap, a leather pouch weighted with lead. In skilled hands, it delivered instant justice with barely a whisper. The blackjack was a covert favorite of 19th century lawmen and rogues. 6 to 10 inches long, it slipped easily up a sleeve or into a pocket. One quick swing to the jaw or temple could knock out a dangerous suspect without gunfire or bloodshed. Police in cities like Boston and New York were carrying saps by the mid-1800s, and frontier sheriffs soon followed. Even Abraham Lincoln's bodyguard, Ward Hill Layman, kept a blackjack in his arsenal, alongside brass knuckles and a bowie knife. In saloon brawls, gamblers sometimes pulled a flat sap to stun an opponent in the chaos. The psychological edge was severe. Victims rarely saw the blow before darkness swallowed them. A blackjack embodied the Old West's code of speed. When seconds mattered, a silent whack beat a warning shot. And speaking of blades, one legendary knife lurked at nearly every cowboy's side, ready when guns ran dry. The bowie knife. The bowie knife, A blazing pistol misfires on the first shot. Now it's down to blades. One man draws a small knife, but the other coolly reaches behind his hip and produces a Bowie knife, a massive, clip-pointed blade, often 10 inches of steel. Its sheer size freezes his foe in terror. In one sweeping slash, the fight is over. The Bowie knife, named after frontiersman Jim Bowie, became the hidden, heavy-duty weapon that dominated close combat on the frontier. Every cowboy, bullwhacker, and lawman knew the value of a big knife in a pinch. Many wore a Bowie on their belt or tucked under a coat as a backup to firearms. John Bratt, a Nebraska cattleman in 1866, described gearing up with an up-to-date bullwhacker's whip, revolver, and Bowie knife before crossing the plains. So, the Bowie's intimidating presence alone could end a fight. The sight of that broad blade often made an aggressor reconsider. Historically, Bowies earned their fierce reputation after Jim Bowie's legendary 1827 sandbar fight and remained frontier favorites for decades. They were utilitarian, too, cutting rope, clearing brush, or skinning game. But in combat, a Bowie knife was pure menace. Its weight gave it chopping power like a short sword, and its point could puncture deeply. Many gamblers or gunslingers kept one hidden under their coattails, ready to draw when bullets ran out. The psychological effect of a Bowie, like a small machete in hand, could shake even hardened gunmen. Yet not all hidden weapons were made of steel and lead. Some were braided rawhide and could split the air or flesh at 15 feet. The bullwhip. A lone cowboy stands in a corral, cornered by rustlers. They sneer at the ranch hand with only a whip on his hip. Big mistake. With lightning speed, he unloops his bullwhip and cracks it forward. The snap shatters the night. One attacker yelps as the whip slices his shooting hand, the pistol spinning away. Another thug charges, but a quick flick coils the leather around his boot and yanks him down. In seconds, the humble whip shifts the odds. The bullwhip was more than a cattle-driving tool. In capable hands, it became a formidable, if unconventional, weapon. Frontier freighters or bullwhackers used whips with 3-foot handles and lashes up to 12 feet. Designed to command oxen, the same whip could cut skin or wrap around a limb to disarm or trip an enemy. The crack, a miniature sonic boom, startled horses and humans alike, giving a strong psychological edge. Some Westerners were so skilled they could slice a cigar from a man's lips or snuff out a candle from yards away. Coiled on a saddle or belt, it looked like simple ranch gear until it lashed out. Few sounds in the West were as intimidating as a whip's report echoing off canyon walls. Our next hidden weapon didn't crack or slash. It ensnared, and once it tightened, even the toughest desperado knew he was caught. The lariat, throwing rope. Mid-gallop under the desert sun, a bandit thinks he's gotten away until a rope loops out of nowhere and cinches around his torso. One yank and he's off his horse, gasping in the dust. The lariat, the cowboy's lasso, has found its mark. In skilled hands, a simple rope became a lightning-fast tool of capture, or even a garrote. Outlaws learned to fear that whistling throw. It often meant the hangman's noose wasn't far off. Every cowboy carried a lariat for work, but a few crafty lawmen and vigilantes turned it into a covert weapon. A coiled rope hanging from the saddle looked harmless, yet it could be unfurled in a heartbeat to entangle a target's body or neck. One precise cast could yank a fleeing thief off his feet or snare a gun hand before it fired. The psychological shock of being lassoed was profound. Sudden, choking captivity sparked instant panic. Historical accounts tell of sheriffs using lassos to capture fugitives. When gunfire risked killing a man, they needed alive. There were darker uses, too. A rope slipped around an unsuspecting victim's throat and tightened silently in the night. The lariat's versatility made it a quintessential hidden weapon. Never meant to be one, yet deadly when the moment demanded it. And now, from simple ropes, we turn to ingenious firearms, no bigger than your palm. the true hideout guns of the Wild West. The Derringer. A genteel riverboat gambler calmly puffs a cigar as the card shark across the table reaches for a revolver. The gambler's coat looks empty, yet a sudden burst of smoke erupts from his vest pocket. The assailant falls. From the gambler's hand slips a tiny single-shot pistol, a Derringer. In the Old West, these pocket pistols were the classic hidden companions of gamblers, ladies, and gunfighters needing a secret second shot. The Derringer story began with Henry Derringer of Philadelphia, who in the 1850s built a small .41 caliber single-shot pistol for close-range defense. Lightweight and easily hidden in a waistcoat, boot, or muff, it delivered one life-saving shot to break contact with an attacker. Its notoriety skyrocketed when one was used to assassinate President Lincoln in 1865. In the West, Derringers became wildly popular holdout weapons. Saloon girls tucked them in garters, gamblers in vests, outlaws up sleeves, and women in handbags. Gunfighters carried them as backups. Wild Bill Hickok even kept one in his boot. The most iconic was the Remington double-barreled Derringer, introduced 1866, offering 2 shots in an over-under design. About 150,000 were produced, proving their immense popularity. Drawing a Derringer from a hidden pocket created powerful psychological shock. The opponent, who thought you unarmed, suddenly found themselves staring at a .41 caliber surprise. Many gamblers won duels not with a Colt quick draw, but by palming a Derringer and firing before the other man's hand even touched leather. But 2 shots still limited your chances, which is why some sneaky gunslingers preferred a pepper box, a weapon with barrels like a handful of death. The pepper box pistol. In a dimly lit tavern, a nervous traveler is cornered by 3 road agents. He raises his hands, but they overlook the strange little pistol he's holding. It has no visible cylinder, just a cluster of holes at the muzzle. Suddenly, pop, 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 the gun erupts repeatedly without reloading. This is the pepper box, a marvel of the mid-1800s. A multi-barreled pocket pistol capable of firing several shots in rapid succession. The pepper box became popular in the Wild West among lawmen and civilians who wanted more firepower than a single-shot Derringer. Instead of one barrel and a rotating cylinder, it featured multiple barrels, with the entire cluster rotating on each trigger pull. This allowed several shots without cocking a hammer or reloading, a big advantage if you missed or faced multiple attackers. Pocket-sized models hid easily in coats, making them true hideout guns. But pepper boxes gained a reputation for inaccuracy. The barrels often lacked rifling, and the heavy front end made aiming clumsy. Mark Twain joked that the safest place to be when facing a pepper box-wielding antagonist was standing directly in front of him. Still, at the close ranges they were used, the effect was devastating. Imagine the shock when a thug expecting an easy victim suddenly faced a flurry of bullets from what looked like a harmless, stubby pistol. By the late 1800s, pepper boxes were old-fashioned, yet many remained in circulation as cheap, concealable defense weapons. A lawman could carry one deep in a coat pocket, and no one would know until it started firing from inside the coat itself. Even so, the pepper box's odd design pales beside the next contraption, a weapon hidden in a gentleman's walking stick, the deadly cane, gun cane, and sword cane. A well-dressed banker strolls down a boardwalk at dusk, leaning on a handsome cane. A cut purse steps from the shadows with a knife, an easy victim, he thinks. But the victim twists the top of his cane, and out slides a slender sword with a steely hiss. In another case, a traveler calmly points his cane like a rifle. A hidden trigger clicks, boom, and the thief drops. In the West, even a gentleman's walking stick could hide lethal intent. Cane guns and sword canes were the pinnacle of 19th century disguised weapons. First popular in Europe and eastern cities, they traveled west with gamblers, spies, and well-to-do travelers. In 1866, Remington introduced a .22 caliber single-shot cane gun that used the cane's length as the barrel. Later versions came in .32, .40, and even .410 bore. To onlookers, it appeared to be a simple walking stick until it fired from the hip. Sword canes, already common in Europe and America, concealed razor-sharp steel blades and naturally appealed to wealthy Westerners. Surprise was their greatest weapon. A man who seemed unarmed could suddenly stab or shoot before his attacker even reacted. Some custom canes went further. A twist of the handle might reveal a knife, a spike, a pepperbox pistol, or several weapons combined. Gunsmiths built exotic hybrids by request, including knife pistols that merged a firearm with folding blades. One rare 19th century brass percussion knife pistol could fire a bullet and deliver a stabbing strike in close quarters, giving its owner both ranged and melee power. Imagine the shock. An outlaw presses a gun to a dandy's chest, only to feel a hidden sword slide between his ribs, or a killer mocks an old man's cane, until that cane belches flame and lead. Such disguised weapons blurred the line between tool and armament, making deception as deadly as any Colt revolver. From hidden guns, we turned back to hidden blades, a tiny dagger favored by riverboat gamblers and dangerous ladies. The push dagger. Picture a high-stakes card game in a crowded salon. A professional gambler in an elegant waistcoat is accused of cheating by a burly cowhand. The cowhand searches him. No revolver, no Bowie knife. Satisfied, he grabs the gambler by the lapel. In a flash, the gambler's fist shoots up like a punch, and the cowhand staggers back, blood blooming on his shirt. What happened? Hidden in the gambler's boot was a push dagger, a short, double-edged blade with a T-shaped handle. One close-range jab ended the fight before the cowhand even saw a weapon. The push dagger was a 19th century favorite for discreet, devastating protection. Originating in the American South, it was especially common in New Orleans, San Francisco, and gambling hubs along the Mississippi. Its design was simple but deadly, a stout 2 to 4 inch blade jutting from a crossbar handle. Gripped in the fist, the blade protruded between the knuckles, turning a punch into a deep stab. Compact and easy to hide, people slipped them into boot tops, tucked them inside sleeves, or hung them from a vest button with a small sheath strap. Before reliable pocket pistols became widespread, the push dagger was the preferred concealable weapon for gentlemen, gamblers, and even ladies of the night. It became so common in New Orleans that by 1879, the city banned its sale due to the surge in fights and murders involving it. In close combat, the push dagger was brutally effective. A quick jab or uppercut could pierce vital organs with alarming ease. Victims often didn't realize they'd been stabbed until they felt the blood. And because the blade was clenched in the fist, it was hard to disarm and required no fencing skill, just courage and proximity. In saloon brawls and street scuffles, the hidden T-handled knife helped smaller men stand against larger foes. Many card sharps survived robbery attempts by literally coming to grips with attackers using this tiny weapon. But gamblers weren't the only ones relying on quick concealed blades. Some people carried tools that unfolded with a press of a button and were just as deadly: switchblades and straight razors. A drunken patron grabs a saloon girl by the arm, only to freeze as a slender blade flicks out from nowhere and presses under his chin. With her free hand, the woman holds a switchblade, its spring-released knife gleaming. In another alley, a traveling salesman is cornered by a thug and produces not a gun, but a straight razor. The same razor he used for morning shaves, now ready to carve in self-defense. These were the hidden weapons of the desperate and the clever. Blades tucked into bodices, boots, or pockets until the crucial moment. Not everyone in the Old West carried a firearm. For many, women in saloons or citizens in towns with strict gun laws, a concealable knife was the next best choice. Switchblades, spring-assisted folding knives, actually existed in the 19th century and were valued because they could deploy instantly with one hand. Contemporary accounts note that they were common accessories for saloon workers, dance hall girls, and anyone who needed to fend off aggressive patrons without swinging a heavy bowie. Some were small and decorative with pearl handles or little jewels, disguising their deadly purpose. A press of a button sent the blade snapping out, often enough to make an attacker recoil from sheer shock. Straight razors, meanwhile, were everyday personal items. Almost every traveling man owned one, and in a pinch, they became terrifying weapons. Bartenders and brothel madams kept them under the bar or tucked in garters. Their thin, wickedly sharp blades could slash to the bone with a single swipe. In frontier towns and mining camps, razors earned a reputation as the quiet weapon of choice in certain quarrels and rivalries. Silent to carry, silent to kill. Cutthroat razor wasn't just a shaving term. In close combat, one well-placed slice could do what a gunshot would loudly announce. Both the switchblade and the straight razor were quintessential hidden weapons, easy to conceal and brutally intimate in their use. They demanded nerve since the wielder had to get within arm's reach, but their speed and surprise often ended confrontations before guns cleared holsters. A gambler with a blade up his sleeve or a lady with a razor in her boot could level the odds against the larger armed man in an instant. And in the lawless corners of the West, simply being known for carrying a hidden knife could deter trouble as effectively as any six-shooter. Now at last we arrive at number one, a weapon so ingeniously concealed, an opponent might not recognize it as a gun until he's already been shot. The palm pistol, Minneapolis Protector. A tense standoff in a frontier parlor. A hired killer sneers at the unarmed old man in the rocking chair. He steps forward. Any last words? The elderly gent simply smiles, holding what looks like a harmless circular trinket in his palm. Suddenly, a sharp crack. The killer staggers, blood blooming on his shirt. The old man had a palm pistol, and with one secret squeeze, he turned the tables without ever appearing armed. The Minneapolis Protector palm pistol, also called the Chicago palm pistol, was a marvel of concealed design at the turn of the century. Unlike traditional firearms, it was round, tiny, and meant to sit hidden inside the hand. Instead of pulling a trigger, the user squeezed a lever or ring. About the size of a pocket watch, it held a 7-shot turret of .32 caliber cartridges, firing rapidly with successive squeezes. With no obvious barrel, attackers mistook it for a simple watch or trinket until it spat fire. Designed to be fired from within the fist, the palm pistol stayed nearly invisible until used. Its pocket watch form allowed gentlemen and ladies to carry several ready-to-fire .32 rounds right in their hand during tense encounters without raising suspicion. The psychological impact was immense. Seeing no visible gun, an assailant assumed dominance, often a fatal mistake. These squeezer pistols proved effective at typical street ranges. Accuracy was modest and power limited, but at point-blank distance, a .32 slug from a hidden hand was as deadly as any Colt. The palm pistol embodied the extreme of concealment, a weapon literally hidden in plain sight, capturing the essence of all disguised arms: surprise, clever engineering, and the resolve to appear defenseless while never truly being so. In the ruthless math of the Wild West, survival favored the cunning. From boot knives to palm pistols, these 12 hidden weapons prove that the deadliest gunfighter wasn't always the fastest draw. Sometimes it was the one with a trick in his sleeve, boot, hat, or cane. Picture a cowboy stepping through saloon doors. He might flash an empty hand, even as a secret weapon rests quietly in his palm.